Welcome to the Silver Arrows Show. Coming up, we discuss just how different the Bahrain Grand Prix could have been for Lewis without that first corner incident. I put your questions to Toto Wolff. Aldo Costa tells us his second podium story from Bahrain, and I find out just what the team thought of Sunday's race.
Mixed emotions from the start, but in the end I think it came with the best result that we could achieve from what happened in the first corner.
2 cars on the podium is always a good day.
A relief, I think, knowing that the boys have done it, and certainly for seeing Lewis make up all the places again. Yeah, very impressed.
It's amazing. I hope we carry on the season like this. Every week when we win another race. I can't wait to come back to work on the Monday.
Cheers, well done everybody. Cheers.
So let's talk about the Bahrain Grand Prix. How did Lewis go from pole position back to 7th place to finish on the podium on Sunday? Here is Chief Engineer Trackside Simon Cole to explain. Simon, can you explain what damage was sustained to Lewis's car?
Yes, there were 2 areas of damage sustained to the car in the incident. One of them was the front wing and the other one was back here on the main part of the floor. So we lost a chunk of floor from here backwards, which we refer to as a hammerhead, and it exposed part of the floor back to about here, and we lost what we call the SPLEF, side pod leading edge flick, that stands for. Very similar to this one. And the damage was initially parts of it were retained, so we had this bit was hanging down and rubbing on the ground, which caused a lot of sparks on television.
You could see that. So do you think that's something that Lewis was feeling? Was he telling you that over the radio?
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit of a moving target, so what he started reporting was that he'd had contact, that he had a problem, and then soon after that he started talking about the feeling of the car, and he feels like he's lost aero from the rear of the car. Aero balance. He wasn't at that time talking about the front wing, but we'd picked up on that from television coverage.
What were the times that Lewis was losing out there per lap?
Well, that was the initial part of the job, is to try and assess how much we're losing, because obviously we can come in and do some work on the car, but we want to avoid that if at all possible, because it's going to drop us further back into traffic. And so we decided to keep the car out for a few more laps to try and get a better handle on what it was we were losing, and also for the aerodynamicists to get a better grip on what we might be able to see as the areas of damage, and were they stable, and how much performance were we losing.
So these were all conversations you were having on the pit wall.
Yep.
How much of that were you able to tell Lewis?
Almost nothing, really. That's not to say that the regulations prevent it, because we were then in an area where we're trying to contain a situation. We've got a car that's damaged, we're trying to get it to the end of the race, we're allowed to box the car if we want to box the car. So the first thing we do is we listen to what Lewis is telling us, and he offers all the right information. The drivers are well versed that we need that information. So what does a car feel like to you? Because there might be damage we're not aware of. It
was a one-off, it was a collision. We hope it won't happen again, that sort of incident out on track. But is there any way that you can reflect on it and prepare?
Really all we can do now for China is reflect on the process and was it effective? As you say, we finished third, that was great. Lewis did a great job of recovering the situation.
Well, fingers crossed, no more collisions out on track. A great job,
Absolutely.
a great recovery from Lewis and the team.
Yeah.
Thanks for
great
talking
job.
us through it.
Thank you.
We're already 2 races into the 2016 season, so I thought it was a good time to catch up with head of Mercedes-Benz Motorsport, Toto Wolff. Toto, hello. Welcome back to the Silver Arrows Show.
Thank you for having me again. Hi, everybody.
So I would like to know, first of all, how you would rate the team's performance so far.
Very good. 2 races in, 1-2, 1-3. Doesn't go much better. We haven't seen the best out of Ferrari yet. They are struggling with reliability. We've seen glimpses of pace, and they've definitely caught up. And it's more difficult for us. But so far, with our results, I'm actually happy.
Lovely little synopsis there for us. So we have asked you to write in with your questions, #AskToto. The next question comes from IPKW, so thank you very much for your question. Why did you decide to mix the engineers in Lewis's and Nico's garages this year?
Because both drivers and their respective engineers and mechanics are very competitive, you can have the situation that the overall team result is not so important for them, but rather the result of the single driver. And this can lead to the very famous left and right side of the garage, not working with each other, but working against each other. And we wanted to make sure that this is not happening.
Spice things up a bit.
No, the contrary, actually. Not spice them up, but just calm them down.
Okay. Okay, so our
That was
next
a bit
question.
of a blonde moment.
That was another blonde moment. I'm having many of those. The next question comes from Niharika Jiri. So thank you very much for your question. Who's funnier? Very topical. Between you and Maurizio Arrivabene?
Definitely he's funnier. He is very spontaneous, and sometimes he comes up with really good things. I remember the first thing in his first ever press conference, he was asked whether he would supply an engine to a team that wasn't very famous in paying on time, and he said, "No money, no honey." So I actually like his humor, and he's a great rival, and Ferrari are great rivals, and we fight hard on track, but we are able to close the chapter and have a beer afterwards.
Okay, the next question is from Mr. Pigs. When you're bored at home, do you ever sit in the bathtub and pretend you're racing?
Mr. Pigs.
Mr. Pigs.
A good nickname. No.
Do you sit in the bathtub? Are you a shower man?
I'm a bathtub guy at home, but I'm a bit OCD, so I'm a shower man in hotels. So I sit in bathtubs, but I don't pretend to be a racing driver. That part of my career is over.
Right, so that's all we've got time for at the moment, but do keep an eye on the channel because we'll have the full-length #AskToto piece coming soon. Talk us through what it was like being up on the podium.
For me, it was seeing all the people there, all the people that you have worked with for the whole winter, preparing a new car, and seeing them all happy, so happy, was really good.
So when do you find out you're actually going up onto the podium? If you win, is there sort of a plan, a strategy of who's going up?
No, in our companies, you see the car at the end of the race, and then someone is coming to you and saying, you.
Does Toto come tap you on the shoulder? It is you.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bahrain's slightly different. No champagne.
Yeah,
was
no
it
champagne.
rose water? What were you drinking up there?
Yeah, I was expecting rose water because 2 years ago was rose water, very sticky. In this particular case, it seemed to me sparkling water with some taste of rose, and it was very cold.
Very cold?
Very cold.
They've been keeping it in the fridge for you, Aldo.
Yeah, 5 degrees. It was like a shock. I think it was changing color. I was becoming blue, violet, white.
Did you get drenched?
Yeah, I was completely wet. Yeah, complete. It was a
But
proper shower.
Smelling of roses, though.
Of roses, yeah.
Love that. That's it for this week's show. We always like to hear what you think of the channel, so why not comment below, and while you're there, subscribe.